Hey friends, Dave here. Hey, I wanted to shoot a little video based on a blog I put together last week about, it was an open letter to guys in their 30s, and I wanted to shoot a video on the other side of this because I had a lot of comments, emails, and people that just caught me in the street and were like, hey, that really appreciated that. So I wanted to extend it out and give you something a bit fun by way of a video and let you know what I've discovered happens to a lot of guys in their 30s, and this may explain some things for you or somebody in their 30s that you know that might be displaying some strange behavior or things that are a bit you don't know what's going on. So let me explain to you what I think goes on to guys in their 30s. Now, I looked for a lot of brain research stuff, thinking, you know, what happens as the brain sort of go through some sort of surge at 30, and around 25 is sort of one of the latest, or I guess most concrete research confirmed ages. So I don't know what happens there, but what I noticed was, as I looked through the Bible, 30 had was a real significant number and was a real threshold for people. For example, David becomes king of Israel at 30. Joseph takes a leadership position under Pharaoh at the age of 30 and basically governs a nation. We know that Jesus Christ started his ministry at 30 as well, and Scripture also tells us that at the age of 30 the sons of Levi were allowed to serve in the temple. So 30 has this spiritual significance. One of the things I quoted in the article was that in the what was called the Mishnah, which was basically a commentary on the Torah, said that in your 20s is to pursue a livelihood, but 30 is for strength. So we see that at around the age of 30, there's a call in a guy to step up into strength and leadership. Now, before this happens, what we often find is you are the center of your universe from about the age of 1 to about the 10. And what happens here is you build your individual identity, your personal identity. And the question you ask yourself, your whole body and being, and research shows even your brain is asking, is, who am I? Now, what happens is, you probably notice, those who've had kids or you remember this time in your life, you sort of move to starting to realize that there are actually people around you, and friends begin to matter a bit more. For example, you might like to have friends who dress a particular way, do a particular thing, and what happens now is your individual identity becomes informed by the group. Okay, now from around the age of 10 to about for the next 20 years till about 30, what's really important is how this group identity is formed and how it informs you. Now you're not only asking who am I, but who am I in my tribe? Who am I in my group? And you spend a lot of time deciding who you are and who you're not, and who you're like and who you're not like, and am I surfy or am I a grungy? Am I a cowboy? Am I a cowgirl? Whatever that is, you begin to try and define your life. And somewhere around 30, you know, guys could be at any stage. They could be single at 30, they could be married at 30, they could have kids at 30. But what happens, I think, is they cross this threshold where they have strength and leadership that is new, and the things that used to really care and matter to them begin to change, because it's like they get this upgrade and they change perspective because they've stepped into leadership and they've stepped into some kind of strength now that is really new and unique. And so now you begin to see the world very differently. You begin to see your friends and the things that you've done, the things that you've held on to, no longer sort of matter, and it begins to really rock your world. Things have to take a back seat. Other things just have to go, and you begin to reshape your life. One of the interesting things that we find at around the age of 30, especially in Christian circles, is that you could have spent, you know, your whole 20s serving in a local church or some sort of community group, and at 30, all of a sudden you you don't want to go to all the events. Something changes in you, and you want to be able to ask questions about God yourself. You want to discover things for yourself, which is really good because it shows inner leadership and strength, which is really, really natural. But I just wanted to share with you 4 traps that I've found, and these are in the article as well. I'll put the link up here. 4 things to look out for when you hit your 30s, because it can become quite messy if you don't keep an eye on these things. Number 1 is you got to ask big questions. Don't be afraid to openly question things for yourself. Now, this is going to become a natural thing. Now, you can even question God. He's big enough to deal with it. And all the things that were forming your group identity, now you really are looking to form something for yourself intentionally. Instead of being informed by these things, you want to inform and be a little more intentional in your life, because you now have the strength, leadership, and capacity for that. So don't be afraid to ask the big questions. Number 2 is beware of bitterness. It can be quite easy to become bitter and say, well, they were idiots, we're going to get rid of those, and I don't know what I was thinking there. So you begin to destroy things in your life and begin to make a mess where you may have actually needed those things together at a later stage in life. Better put his feet on back properly. So all those things are important. Beware of bitterness. The next one I was going to say was, actually there's just 3 things here, 3 keys. The last one is relax, because you've got time. There's a thing in Australian culture that says we have to have arrived at 30 years old, and that's a load of crap, really. We have to have our family together and our life together and everything together, but we actually don't. Like, if you're 30 and you're going to work till you're 70, you've only worked 20% of your work life, so you've got a lot of years ahead of you. So just relax in that. So that's what I see happens in your 30. There's a lot more sort of detail and some research and links in the article, which I'll paste above here. But I hope you've liked my little demonstration here. I rated my boys' Lego stuff here. But if you've turned 30 or know some guys that are, you have to understand that you've really crossed the threshold and stepped up to something new, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to that new height and that new perspective that you have in life. So, hey, if you know someone in the 30s that could, do with some of the wisdom in this, please pass it on. I just want to bless those guys out there that have crossed into their 30s. I want to bless you with permission to ask questions, to be intentional about your life. I want to bless you with permission to just find counsel, find people that you can trust and walk with and process with. It's just so important with this. And also just bless you with permission to rest and relax. You've got some years ahead of you still, especially in the workforce, especially in careers and other things. Don't fall for the lie that everything has to have happened by the time you are 30. I can't remember who said it. She said to women in their 30s, you said you can't, you can have everything that you want in life, you just might not be able to have it all at once. So relax, take your time, trust God, trust how you discover God as well in your time in your 30s as well. And don't be afraid to ask those big questions. Process with some safe people. Many blessings, and we'll speak to you soon. Please like and share this if you can, and check out our articles. My name is David Tensen, and our blog is www.davidtensen.com.